What's up, everybody? Andrew Cooper here. And as you've noticed already, I imagine Howard Bender's off doing baseball stuff. John and Pemba's doing basketball. Actually, they've kind of been crushing basketball lately. I'm here holding down the football ship, so I get to do whatever I want. I get to bring my friends on. So today I'm bringing on my good buddy, Jax Falcone. Jax from the Undroppables. We've done a lot of shows together, a lot of chats together. I got to tell you up front, Jax, we have a hard out at 2:00, 1 hour show. So we can't do our typical 2 or 3 hour chat session here. We can chat, but how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I like how you have to keep the reins on the Mr. Falcone with his long-winded diatribe. So I'll do my best.
Yeah, we can hang after you and I will hang after the show. We'll talk a little bit about everything else. But yeah, no, we got to keep it on point today. Here's what I've been doing with the show. We're kind of in the off season for fantasy football, right? So what we're doing is segment one, we'll go through some news real quick, hit on whatever's popping in case people miss things. I know a lot of things happen during this time of year. Two, I want to hear about your process. I'm ramping up the Dynasty content on Fantasy Alarm, but I want the Dynasty players that in our community to be able to hear from some of the best out there, right? To hear from Mr. Dino Game Theory on Twitter and hear some of the things that other people do, especially with their process. So in part two, we're going to do process. Part three, we're going to get some takes in the great debates. I'm going to give you a couple players. You tell me who you like, and people can potentially use that in trades. And then if there's time at the end, which I doubt there's going to be, we'll take a look at a mock draft. I've got some recent mock drafts courtesy of our friends over at JWB, some startups. We can take a look at some picks and figure that out. So without further ado, let's get into some news and rumors. We do this show weekly, so some of this stuff happened over the last week, some of it over the last couple of days. But the big one to me, man, the Commanders and this hiring process. They're hiring Dan Quinn and they're bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. We've heard that there's been some talking with Ben Johnson that didn't work out. Mike McDonald, who ended up going to the Seahawks. Apparently, they didn't want to pay him enough money. I mean, what's your take on all this, Jaxon? What do you think it means for fantasy football? For Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, some divisive names coming in.
Yeah, I think Dan Quinn looked like he was hired by the Commanders just before that Cowboys-Packers game. If I had a bet.
You think it was already?
You like that one?
Yeah, he was already game planning for this year. Just forgot.
No, he was coaching like he was working for the Commanders. Is what I'm saying. Right. I mean, guys were running wide open. I don't know how you get a head coaching job after a performance like that. I think that's pretty amazing, actually. I mean, talk about just they had their priors because that was the worst coaching performance of the playoffs was that Cowboys coaching performance.
It was bad. And Dak, the thing is, Dak put him in a bad spot early on, right, with the turnovers. But all they had to do was the defense was stop the bleeding, right? Because Dak turned around and threw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. If the defense could have stopped the bleeding, then they win that game, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Dak always gets blamed, and he really couldn't cover anybody in that game.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. So, yeah, Dak can't play both sides, right, brother? So,
yeah, I mean, he wasn't great, and I will say that. But and then Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, if he can just if he can find a way to break free from his girlfriend for even just 5 minutes. Have you seen his girlfriend?
No, I haven't, dude. Is she hot? Is she cute?
You might want to just Google Cliff Kingsbury girlfriend. I mean, everybody right now just.
Yeah, right. People are jumping out of the stream to go check.
She's a fitness model.
Okay, yeah. Well, wow, good for Cliff then. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Sean McVay, all these guys, dude. I mean, being an NFL coach is pretty cool, man. And a lot of good-looking guys out there. Shout out Dave Canales, right? That's another guy, good-looking fella, young guy. So good for him. Hey. I'll tell you, Cliff Kingsbury. For me, I like the idea. I just hope they commit. Because his offense is so different than everybody else with the wide splits and the air raid. And if you're going to you can't just do what the Panthers did and bring a group in for 1 year and fire them. You have to commit to what he wants to do because he's got to go out and get the pieces and build it. Right. So I just hope they commit, man. Other news here. I want to talk to you about Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel.
There we go.
Right. So there is a rumor that Belichick did turn down an offer from the Falcons. Who knows if that's legit or not? But I mean, they're not going to be coaching this year. What do you think about that? Do you think maybe those guys are a little too old school for the modern league, or what's your take on, especially Bill Belichick, who obviously legendary, arguably greatest all time, and just didn't get picked up?
Yeah, there was between 3 and 28 teams that were looking at him, I believe was the number. Atlanta was leaked that. No, I think it was like, Bill probably came in with his own way of thinking that it was going to be. And if it wasn't that way, I'm sure he wasn't very flexible.
Right. Right.
And so a lot of these ownership groups, I was listening to Mike Lombardi talk on the GM Shuffle, and he was talking about how and it makes sense. Everybody is in for themselves, meaning like a GM doesn't really he wants to win, but he also wants he's self-preservation. A GM's trying to keep his job, keep his reputation, make sure he's got a job for life, take care of his family. That's what he cares about. Yes, winning is part of that, but it's not the only thing he cares about. And so a lot of these front offices are really just trying to protect their own power and protect their own selves before really doing what's best for the organization. And I don't know, man. What was the tweet that came out? Dove Kleiman or whatever said that Mike Vrabel's a little too big and burly to be a head coach. I was like, what is this? I'm checking the date. Is it April 1st? No, this is real shit that people are actually reporting. So, I mean, I know he's kind of a ding dong, but the point of the matter is that I don't doubt that there's rumors of this sort. And look, I think Vrabel and Belichick are legit coaches. I think Vrabel was really the prize of the free agent coaching, group. I don't know why he didn't get a job. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and you know what? You make a great point, because when push comes to shove and it's time to fire somebody, there's three people that the axe can really fall on. It's the GM, it's the coach, it's the quarterback. Yeah. Right? That's why I do have, we'll get to that a little later, right? You gotta send somebody else out. We got some folks in the chat. What's up, gang? Toronto Dave coming in with the alarms and the Undroppables. True North with the Undroppables in there. What's up, gang? Yeah, a little meeting of the minds here. And I'll tell you what, with Bill Belichick, there's a lot of pressure there, because if you bring in this legendary head coach and he doesn't agree with the GM, now there's decisions made. And there's been reports that Rich McKay, I think he's the CEO or president of the Falcons, he's on the competition committee, and apparently him and Belichick have disagreed on literally everything. And I think they basically had to choose between those two guys, and they decided to keep Rich McKay. So whatever. I don't really know too much about Rich McKay, but
I don't think Bill's too worried about it either. He's like, oh, great, I'm going to go be on TV for a while. I was listening to Matt Berry. He had the bombshell prediction. He said, okay, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. They walk off. Andy Reid announces his retirement, and Bill Belichick takes over.
Oh my goodness, that would be a spicy meatball. But I mean,
love that meatball. Yeah,
imagine, dude. Yeah, I mean, people would
lose their mind.
Chiefs fans wouldn't know what to do, right? They wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, I mean, because both of them, I think Don Shula's 1 and Belichick's 2, but Andy Reid is not far behind in terms of total wins, right? So
true that.
Yeah, that's wild, man. One last thing that we got news-wise, Ben McAdoo coming in as offensive assistant for the Patriots. People remember him from not so great times with the Giants, and also brief period with the Panthers. But I don't know. What do you think? I think he's not like they're bringing him in as head coach or offensive coordinator, offensive assistant. So I don't know. I don't know if
exactly. Yeah, I think as an offensive assistant, that's fine, I guess. I mean, look, I don't think he's made for being – a lot of these coaches and whatnot, it's always we judge them on their record and stuff, and rightfully so. But a lot of times it's the players that you have. But, Ben McAdoo was 6-10 twice as an OC. They were 11-5 his first year as a head coach, but they had the second-ranked defense and the 30th ranked offense. So it's not like he's ever really done it. I mean, he did have Eli Manning. It wasn't like they had, bottom 5 quarterbacks. So they probably should have been a little bit better offensively. I don't know. I know Giants fans are not eager to get him back. His record ain't that great, but maybe as an offensive assistant, it's fine. I'm just wondering what character he's going to dress as this year.
Dude, so the one interesting thing about Ben McAdoo that I've been hearing, some rumors, and apparently they're more than rumors, because there's some documentation to back it up, that Ben McAdoo is actually really good at talent evaluation, which I would not have guessed. I was reading that. Good at
something.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So I guess should be more on the GM side, because apparently he was really high on Mahomes. He's really high on Lamar Jackson. People dogged him for benching Eli Manning, but he was kind of right about Eli on the downfall. So it sounds like the Patriots, as scary as it sounds like Ben McAdoo is going to help the Patriots pick a quarterback.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's something, man. On the rumor mill, we've got people have talked to death about the 49ers in the practice fields. Who cares? Bears taking Caleb Williams at 1. You think that's the right idea?
Yeah, they got to. Excuse me. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's like if Justin Fields were able to be signed on a rookie deal again right now or something, like if that were possible,
right,
then you could be like, well, you get another 4 or 5 years of Justin Fields on a rookie deal. You can trade the 1.01 for a haul, but that's not what's going to happen. They're going to have to make a decision on Justin Fields. He hasn't really proven to be a winning quarterback. I love Justin Fields, so this isn't an anti-Fields statement, but if I'm running the Bears, if we're running the Bears, you're telling me that we're going to pass on the potential of a 1.01 type of prospect? I mean, even just player analysis aside, we just say the statement of what has gone on. You have to take the shot on Caleb. You just have to. You just have to say, okay, here's another opportunity. Even if you keep Justin Fields in the building, I really don't even care. You don't have a quarterback until you do, and once you do, you're one of these teams that can win it every single year. I mean, just look at the Chiefs. Everybody was complaining about this team and how good they were, and because they have the greatest quarterback on the planet, they've got a shot.
Yeah, bingo, man. And that's such a key point that people forget. And this is kind of a blasphemous take for me as a Patriots fan, but it wasn't about Drew Bledsoe versus Tom Brady straight up. Drew Bledsoe at the time was probably still a better quarterback at the moment, right? Yeah. But it was Drew Bledsoe and $100 million, literally $100 million, right? And going to the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years was Tom Brady. Dude, that first year Tom Brady made like $250,000. Not even kidding. You know what I mean? And like, going to the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years, that was the contract freed that all up. Yeah. Russell Wilson going to the Super Bowl back-to-back years, he was making like less than $3 million. The reason the Buccaneers were good this year, right? Yeah. Baker Mayfield was making $4 million, right? Yeah. Brock Purdy, of course you could build a super mega star squad when you Brock Purdy's your quarterback and he's making what?
The Eagles.
$3 million bucks. Or Brock Purdy's making $1 million. Yeah, the Eagles, right? Like that's how it goes, man. So you got to take advantage of that when you get the chance, right? So that's it for news.
Contract 1, and then 2, the opportunity. Look, it's simple. Justin Fields hasn't become a winning quarterback at the NFL level. As much as that pains me to say, it is a fact.
Right. For fantasy football, we were rooting for him to get another job because he's great. He's awesome. He's fun to watch too.
He's like, cool. He could grow. It's possible that he could become a winning quarterback. Just hasn't been so yet.
Yep, it's a business. That's the whole thing. So, and so that's about it for these rumors. I do want to ask you on the Super Bowl. I want this is the take I want from you on the Super Bowl. How invested do you get in the Super Bowl, or are you just kind of busy doing other things? And it kind of gets to my next question, but like do you really get into the Super Bowl? Do you like go crazy with the prop bets and the analysis and stuff, or you just kind of enjoy the game?
I mostly enjoy the game. I'll tell you this though. I don't know. Tell me what so there's always a Super Bowl party, right? Yeah. And, there's always like gatherings and whatnot. And I remember, for the Patriots, I didn't like going to Super Bowl parties. No. I just would like want to watch by myself. And like, I don't know. I was like a weirdo when I would watch the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I'll go to a Super Bowl party, but when the Patriots were in it, I was like, no, just leave me alone. I can't.
I make arrangements well in advance. Like I already know where I'm sitting. You know what I mean? It's Tuesday. I know where I'm going to say it. Last year when I was at my sister's house, I made sure they were, because I already knew what my sister's setup was. I made sure that there were 3 different TVs going because I know, people are going to be smoking in the garage. I don't want to be out there with all that. Downstairs, it gets really loud. I knew that I had another TV to go to that was my own oasis to watch the game. You know what I mean? So I always make sure that it's because this is what I do for a living. This is what I do.
Yeah. Well, but even before I did it for any sort of a living whatsoever, I'm talking about like, I couldn't be around other people. Because I'll tell you, I had a Super Bowl party at my house for the 18-1. I almost said 19-0 Patriots, and it was brutal. I remember I was sitting in the middle of the room watching the end happen as it's coming around, and there was all these people because I was in California. And nobody gave a shit about the Patriots. I was like the only one who cared. And there's just people like having a great old time. And I'm by myself in this vortex of like despair. It was pretty brutal. And I said, from then on, never again.
Right. Yeah. You really, especially if it's your favorite team, you gotta have a place to be, dude. I was in college when they lost that one, so I had nowhere to go, dude. It was New England college, it was chaos, dude. My buddy almost died. You know what I mean? He missed some classes the next day, let's say. So
people not really wanting to hear the Patriot fan agony on the chat. I can tell that makes a lot of sense.
And a handful of Giants fans went out to like the green space, where they called it, like the little, and they were jumping around or whatever. It almost got ugly. So yeah, I'm with you on that, man.
By the way, for those who hate us Patriots fans, I will tell you, I am prepared for the downturn. I'm prepared for it. It's time.
Right.
It's going to happen.
I'm kind of excited.
Days are coming.
I'm kind of excited to be the underdogs and be you know what I mean? Like we've got Belichick's gone, Brady's gone. You know what I mean? There's no reason to hate. I guess if we could hate Bob Kraft, but there's no reason to really hate anymore. So
by the way, I'll put a bow on the Super Bowl talk. I've got my prediction. Here's the prediction for the Super Bowl. Oz Perlman. I said this on Heath Cummings' show, but I'll expound upon it a little bit. Oz Perlman was at the Hard Knocks with the Jets and was talking to Mecole Hardman, and he said, "You guys, you're going to win 31-21 over the 49ers." And he was talking to Mecole Hardman. He was not necessarily talking to the Jets. So I think Oz Perlman, the great magician, is right. 31-21 Chiefs. And as the confetti is falling, Travis Kelce is going to propose on live television to Taylor Swift with a shirtless Jason Kelce there for support.
That would be ultimate TV moment. Magical, bro. I mean, I'm telling you, if he proposed at the Super Bowl to Taylor
with
Swift,
confetti come on.
Howard and I talked about this, Howard Bender and I, on the radio yesterday, and we were like, "What is so like? Let's say that happens. Yeah. What does Travis Kelce do next? Like,
I mean, Jason just smashing 2 beers together, shirtless." Like, dude, I want to lose my mind. I want it so bad.
I want it. Yeah.
But like, what backdrop to the queen of pop? Like the most, just everything about that will be.
The chat wants it, dude. I'm telling you, it's like, what do you do next if you're Travis Kelce? Like, do you become an astronaut? Right? Do you become president? Like, how do you go up from here? There's nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, you marry Taylor Swift to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just
little
crazy.
Kelce babies. That's what you do.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell people out there real quick, if you have your own predictions for the Super Bowl, like Jax is here, saying that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce all getting hitched and crushing beers after the game as the confetti comes down. If you have predictions like that, you should play our Fantasy Alarm Big Game Pick'em contest. We have that set up right now at Better Edge. It's free to play. Free. We did this a week ago and gave away an autographed Josh Allen jersey, to anyone who got in, played this free contest. It's available right now, and we're giving away a signed Jordan Addison picture this time. So, hey, look at that right there on the screen, the QR code. You can go there, use promo code ALARM when you link your account, or just use the QR code there. You just go in, pick some stuff. Whoever does it best for the Super Bowl, free Jordan Addison autograph picture. I can't win, or else I'd put it right behind me. If you do win, you are allowed to send it to me. You are allowed to send it to Jax. So go get set up. That's free right now at Better Edge. And again, you use code ALARM or use the QR code, and you can win a free Jordan Addison photo. So anyway, Jax, that topic that I just brought up, that question, it leads me to a bigger topic that I like to ask my guests. So in this next segment here, we're going to talk about you. I want to know about your process, and I want to know what your football calendar is like, because during the season, everybody's calendar comes together. You're doing football, you're doing college football, right? You one or the other. There's kind of 2 paths you can go by. But now, this time of year, the calendars really diverge. You got some people at the Senior Bowl. You got some people that are grinding film. You got some people that are just super invested in the Super Bowl. You got a bunch of people that are at the Super Bowl, and non-Endurian friends of the show are out there hanging out, right? So, you got people doing best ball right now. Best ball is open. Like, we're cranking best ball. The best ball guys, like Pete Overs, they don't sleep. They don't stop. So, like, that's what they're doing, right? So, where are you at with your calendar? Like, how do you go from this time of year into, because I know you obviously have a bunch of Dynasty rookie drafts. What takes you from here to there, right?
Yeah, what's interesting is that I've become more of a Dynasty player than anything else, or Dynasty content creator more than anything else, because that's what I've become good at. I play best ball, but I'm not that good at it, so I only play for fun. I'm still working on becoming profitable at best ball, so until I am, I'm not going to jump feet first. I think for me, I've got some ideas on how to become profitable at best ball, but that's besides the point. And I don't play Devi, obviously. I'm not a virgin. So
it's great. Shout out to Canvas Canton and those guys, man. I love those guys, and I love stealing information from them.
Yeah.
But you got to be some sort of sicko to be like
team sex for me. I don't, Debbie or sex. You got to choose. Basically, it's one of the other.
It is a grind, dude. And talk about if you think of the Dynasty people have take lock, the take lock you get if you're a Debbie dude and you're like watching high school.
Yeah, that guy's the guy, man.
Right. Yeah, some guy recorded on his BlackBerry, and you're watching this through a chain link fence.
Rattler and Rondell Moore, baby.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy, bro. But yeah, shout out to Dev. Debbie is super cool. And to me, honestly, my opinion is I'm such a Dynasty guy that if you have a league and your draft is before the NFL draft, I consider that Debbie. Like people are doing drafts now. Like to me, that's Debbie because you're not. Dynasty is the whole package. So I don't know. Some people say, it's still Dynasty, but we just draft before the draft. It's like, okay. I mean, some of those guys might not get picked, dude.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I don't love it, because there's so much. I guess the point is why not have drafted a long time ago? Because there's so much information that happens between now and a couple months. It is kind of a weird spot to draft. I have none of my leagues that draft there, and I wouldn't be against it. I guess there'd be another level of advantages you could take in that situation. I think I know how I'd play those leagues specifically. I have my sort of strategy thought out, but I draft almost no running backs early. There'd be zero because the running backs are too volatile in the NFL draft. The wide receivers are a little bit more predictable. So I mean that's obviously how you'd have to play it, and that's not as fun. I mean I'd like to have the information. So anyway, but January for me, basically through the Super Bowl is like enjoy real football. And I just kind of clean up my leagues, managers that are leaving or whatever, fill vacancies, collect dues for next year, really kind of get a lot of guys want to take a break. So I try not to make it a really action packed area, but then I actually lock a lot of transactions until about now. And people are itching. They're like, dude, when does it open? And then you sort of start to open up transactions, get some payments, kind of let people know, hey guys, pay for the league, and then I'll open up. And then payments kind of start coming in. I usually will not make people pay so much until the draft, but depending on the situation, guys will DM me, hey, do you mind if I do this? Whatever. So it's fine. That's January. And then basically February, March, and April is all rookie scouting and NFL draft research. I'm a draft Nick. I would be researching the draft as many of you listeners are doing, whether I'm doing content or not. I'm friggin' into it. So I'm into NFL drafts. So that's a ton of fun. May is rookie drafts. May and June, for me, I'm doing team projections, player and team projections, and then off we go. So that's basically what my schedule looks like, for what we're doing here. But yeah, I mean, May is so much fun. Right after, this whole time of year.
Best, bro.
Fucking great. Yeah.
It's the best. And that's the thing with best ball. I do them all year round because our fantasy alarm, our people want to do them. They're already hitting me up. They're like, let's get some going. So we want to do them. We do them. And, I got like little awards that I'm setting up the Discord for everybody that won last year. So that's going to be fun. But this time of year, I do write. What I do is I sit down and I write articles for free agency this time of year. And I say, this is what I think is going to happen. Then I do a lot of free agent stuff. I feel like people skip over that, man. But I love March 11th, right? Yep. But I'm with you. Once the legal tampering period, once the big names hit, I jump in and it's all combine. It's all rookies because it's got to be, man. So I love that, man. Give us one thing that and again, we're going to get into specific players, but if you can give advice to the Fantasy Alarm members, like something that Jax himself has used in your own leagues to get an advantage, whether it's certain players you go after, certain types of trades you like to do, 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s or whatever, trading away picks, getting extra picks. Like what's an approach that you think, trading away older players, trading for older players? It could be anything you want, but what's something where you say, okay, you know what? This is something where if I see it, if I'm looking through the matrix of my leagues, if I see this, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to use it to my advantage. You got something like that you give to people?
I think the biggest advantage that I have, I almost say we because it's kind of me and Chalk a little bit, only because it's Spider-Man meme. I mean, Chalk and I, when we started to get together at the Undroppables and this whole thing started to happen, it was born out of us seeing eye to eye on so many things regarding fantasy football, but most specifically Dynasty Fantasy Football. And our process is what I think gives us that advantage. And it was a process that is almost identical to one another's, before we knew each other. And so it's been a super fun thing, a super fun project for us to do together to sort of articulate that process and to refine that process. So I would say that's the biggest advantage we get. And then I would say, how people can take action on that process is, in the basic genesis of the process is like, I have a willingness to adhere to a long-term value, right? So a long-term value approach rather than, short-term gain. And, when you sort of think of this in a long-term value approach, especially when, and I mentioned this on yesterday, it's like, especially when many gamers are so like DFS best ball, like win now, almost like not even win now, win this week. There's guys who will make trades because there's a good matchup. Like, so when there's players in your league that are willing to do that, and you're okay giving them that, as long as you can continuously gain long-term value, you're going to build a superstar no matter what. If you just stay with that approach. That is a general overarching approach, but Chalk basically wrote a book on this. It's on our website. It's called The Art of Dynasty, and many of the concepts that we utilize every single league is in there. The Bayesian approach and the Iron Bank and just all these things that we know they work. We know how they work. And then when it comes to player eval, we'll probably get there, but is my anatomy series, just a way to sort of look at players with a non sort of, that's my guy. I don't really have that. I just look at ranges of outcomes, what's possible. And when you have a Bayesian approach matched with a pretty, even keel way of looking at prospects, it allows you to sort of ride with it. In other words, we were on Puka as soon as we started to see it. It's not like I was like, I'm the biggest fan of Puka ever. I was just ready to be okay with him being good right away because I wasn't against or for him. Sort of say, that guy's interesting for these reasons. And then when you start to put those things together, you're able to act fast and make a trade for him well before. I sort of
I'll tell you what. That's one thing I've had trouble with personally.
Yeah.
We got to admit our faults to some degree. I do have trouble because I look at the hit rate and how low it is for day 3 guys. I do have trouble coming around and saying, okay, you know what? This guy is in the 5%, right? So like 95, only about 5% or so of day 3 wide receivers do hit. And it's so hard for me to say, okay, this guy's the hit. This guy's the one. So we're going to, like, I'm on Ross St. Brown. I was one of the last people to come around and say, you know what? He's in, right? Because in that 5%, you still also have guys that quote unquote hit that didn't quite hit. Like his name escapes me. Who's the wide receiver coach for for Ohio State right now?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, somebody in the chat. Yeah, not sorry. I did it to myself. But he's technically a hit for Dynasty because he had a wide receiver 2 season. But is he a hit? Right. So it's so tough for me. And the thing is, I end up trading away a lot of Darnell Mooney's and those type guys and Gabe Davis's for that reason, but also Brian Hartline. Thank you, Toronto Dave, for saving us from ourselves. Brian Hartline, technically within the 5%, he's a hit. So I do end up trading a lot of those guys away. I get value, but it's hard for me to say it. And Puka Nacua is another one where I think I have to at this stage say, okay,
Here's the thing though, when I use the anatomy, like Gabe Davis, Amon-Ra St. Brown, there were a couple others along the way. These were guys that fit in a lot of ways as elite wide receivers in the NFL, except for draft capital. So you sort of said, well, wait a minute now. And right. You say, okay, so I think this player is better than his draft capital. His draft capital still matters, but I think he's better than that. Puka was interesting. There were a number of them. First of all, the wide receivers, here's another trend that's happening right now. Wide receivers, there are more better wide receivers today than there were 20 years ago. Right. People go, why is that true? That's probably not true. It is true because there are more teams throwing the football at college at a much higher rate than ever. So there are guys getting way, way, way more reps. There's all these, 7-on-7 camps. There's just so much more reps for guys, at younger ages. There's so much more NFL ready. There's so much more high-level receivers being sort of unearthed. There were probably guys back then, but they got 4 targets a year from in this small school. Now everybody's chucking it around. there's just so much more of that. So, you look at like Michael Wilson, there's a lot of deep guys that were drafted that I'm like, man, these guys have skill. I'm not going to just throw them away. I'm ready for them to sort of start to elevate. And when Puka sort of showed this, and you're a camp guy, he was winning at camp. There was so much good word coming out. And I know that I don't like to move everything in regards to just, narrative stuff, but hey, when it's all lining up, you have to
when it all lines up, right?
That's
you don't buy guys based on just the smoke, but if
No.
you were there, if you liked the wood, if you liked the build of the, you know what I mean? Like if you like the build of the campfire, then you're going to be in. And
even still, you still have to start to, you don't jump all the way in, but you start to put it together. Right. I sent a tweet right before week 1. I said, if you're desperate, I think you can actually, flex Puka Nacua this week. And people are like, shut up, bro. He did what he did. I didn't call that, but I was like, there, in other words, we were piecing it together as you got closer. So when I saw that, it wasn't like, oh, this is bullshit. I was like, yes, I've been seeing this. This makes sense. So, you just kind of have to be ready to sort of put everything together, not just stick to where you're at.
In terms of the draft itself, you had a period where it was like, you had Brandon Marshall in the 4th round, and like Antonio Brown because he was kind of crazy, but like
yes,
and then what happened is you had all the comp picks were added. Now the draft is not what it used to be, right? Where Brandon Marshall went is now like the 6th round because you got the comp picks and you got the 2A resolution picks, right? You lose a minority coach, they get a 3rd round pick, right? It pushes everything down, right? So so it has changed. Like that, the 5th and 6th and 7th round, like the 7th round is what would be like the 9th round. Right. So it's like, but as you said, now, so there's a long period where, Quincy Enunwa and those guys were like the best guys coming out of those rounds because it was such a change. But now, because it's such a deep, the position's getting deeper and wide receivers are more important. Maybe now the 4th round maybe the cutoff line does need to move a little bit. Maybe not necessarily have it be the 3rd round like it always was. And maybe we look a little harder at these 4th round guys, 5th round.
Yeah. And I think you look at some of these teams and like, when Jonathan Mingo was picked, I chuckled. I laughed. Sometimes when Clyde Edwards-Helaire got drafted, I chuckled. It could have been that when Jordan Love got drafted, I chuckled. So sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. Right. But, generally speaking, when you look at some of this stuff, you're like, dude, that's not a very good pick. And it turns out to be correct. Obviously, they'd love to have Jaden Reed instead of Jonathan Mingo, I would assume.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I tell you what, as I see Z in the chat saying that sound process, you know what that is? The thing is, I have no problem with the process. Like I still trade those guys away, and it's part of my process to just eat it, right? Like the thing is, if I sat there and had all these guys, which I usually don't, but if I sat there and had all these guys and traded away all the Jacoby Myers and all these guys, like you got to remember, I am getting back 1st and 2nds and 3rds. So at the end of the day, you don't know. It's like, okay, I trade away 5 of those guys, and one of them turns into Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, that feels like it hurts, but with the picks I got back, how do you know I didn't take Aaron Jones and Chris Godwin and all these guys that went in the 3rd round of rookie drafts or late second round of rookie drafts? So that's part of it, man. I'll never dog the process for what it is, but see, the problem I run into is that I do that, and I have a hard time accepting the results once we get beyond that point, right? Like for me to turn around and say, okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't going to turn into Tyler Boyd. Like they're not going to add a split end and a flanker. He's going to be the full-time guy. It just takes me longer than most people to acknowledge that, and I admit my fault, right? Yeah. I'm not going to admit that the trading away these guys because the 5% hit rate, I'm not going to say that's a bad move because that's what I do, but I will admit that like I need to get better at turning around and saying, okay, we did trade those guys away. These ones were good. This one was the mistake, right? But like the thing is with the process, I'm not going to turn around and stop doing it the way I do it. So.
I would say a couple things to that because I think you're wise at the 5% hit rate. The one thing I would say is that and this is not conceited or anything. It's just true. My hit rate is higher than 5%. The overall hit rate is 5%. I feel like I'm a better evaluator. So, okay, so mine's automatically a little bit more, call it 10%. And then whether it's 5 or 10% or 2% or 12%, the other thing to remember is that the upside is unknown. With certain players that are already in the NFL, a Curtis Samuel or a Tyler Boyd or whatever, you're kind of like, okay, we know what we've got. Curtis Samuel isn't going to all of a sudden become Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? But Amon-Ra, after he's drafted, could become Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what I mean? Right. In other words, Puka Nacua had that ceiling just because it's completely unknown. And so those types of players, you don't necessarily want to be all in because you think they're going to become that, but you have to be open enough to consider the randomness of the upside and downside. Curtis Samuel isn't going to be out of the league either, but Puka Nacua could have been a complete bust. Like, there's so much variance to their potential outcomes.
Well, here's the thing. And then this is why it's so important to have someone like Jax or someone like myself, or both of us, well, ideally, going through and combing through and figuring out who these guys are and what they are. Because at the end of the day, the hit rate, the general hit rate, say it's 5%, right? But we can rule out very easily a good chunk of those players, right? So if a guy is drafted specifically to be a special teams player, and you know exactly why some of these guys are drafted, you can remove them. Guys that are pure field stretchers, and that's all they'll ever be.
Tight ends and shit,
right?
Yeah.
Like, we removed Tutu Atwell and these guys and
Strange
and Anthony Schwartz because exactly. Tight ends especially, we can remove the Drew Samples of the world for you, right? And then on the other side, you look at it and say, okay, why did this guy fall? You look at the guys that did break out that are the top end of the hit rate, right? I've gone through all of them, right? And you can say to yourself, okay, why did this guy fall? Okay, Pierre Garçon, one of the best, right? He was a Mount Union guy. Yeah. He was a Division 3, that's Division 3, I believe, right? Yeah. So like, he's Mount Union, right? Julian Edelman, he played quarterback, right? Tyreek Hill, I don't even want to say why he fell, but like, you know what I mean? You go through, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you go through, and there's not a lot of Marvin Joneses out there that don't have a lot of warts to them, right? Like, even Stephon Diggs had the injury issues and getting suspended for fighting with teammates and coaches and attitude stuff. Like, you can kind of paint that picture. So you got to look around and say, okay, why did this guy fall? Well, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown fell because his brother, was a ding dong, and his dad is crazy, and he has these kids eating meatballs for breakfast, and he changed their last name because he thought it was cool. Like, so you think about that, maybe that's why he fell. Maybe Puka Nacua, I don't know why the hell he fell, because when you go back and look at the yards per route run and everything, like, he's kind of awesome. But if you can pay,
he fell because he didn't look like. I think there's, look, Ray Garvin mentioned this. He goes, dude, the guy just don't look like he's the guy. And I'm like,
Hunter Renfrow looks like a pen salesman. You know what I mean? Hunter Renfrow looks like Dustin Pedroia.
It was just an interesting take. I'm like, there is some of that. Like,
there is some of that
dissonance. You're a front office guy. You're like, now let's just take this guy instead. Like, there's just a either or, and you're like, forget it, not this guy.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, like, once you rule out, I think the hit rate, once you start ruling those guys out, right? So that's what it is for me. It's like, and I know in my leagues, like, I have leagues that we draft fourth round, fifth round rookie. I know I have to take D3 guys. I don't like it, but I have to separate the ones that I'm going to like versus the ones I'm not going to like. So boom. I think that's great, man. Let's move on. Let me ask, before we get to the next topic here, what's your favorite dynasty format? Because I always want to, the thing is, we all in our brain, we have like the format that's our format, right? So, because like, and the arguments on Twitter, it's like, you got these super flex guys arguing against the best ball guys who are arguing against the people that have been playing for 30 years in standard leagues, and everyone in their league always takes running backs. It's like, I need to know what your mindset is. So for this next segment here where we debate, I need to know what is your brain default to? Like, for instance, half PPR or full PPR?
I've got it.
All right,
I've got it. Managed lineup.
Yep.
Super flex.
Yep.
Tight end premium slight or whatever. I mean, it's fine. I'm okay.
That's the modern format. That's the most modern format.
12 team. Start 12. I like deep. I like them deep.
Good.
Half PPR, half point per first down.
Half PPR. I love that because that's real football. Right?
Yes, like, exactly. Scott Fish. I mentioned the half PPR, half point per first down on Heath Cummings' show, and Fish was like, dude, he put that in the notes or the comments, and I was like, yes, and I said, this should be the law of the land, like, because PPR is too much, and standard is like, watching dinosaurs. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
This is the perfect split of the difference. And gosh darn it, if first downs aren't the most valuable damn thing in the game.
Right. I mean, too, when you watch real football, like we do all this, all this crazy analysis or whatever. When you watch real football, there's two things that matter. There's first downs and touchdowns, right? That's it. It's literally it. And making your field goals. But I mean, first, converting that's the one word, convert, right? Convert as many first downs as you can, and hopefully convert the touchdown. And if not, can convert the field goal. That's it.
That's
so,
it.
Yeah. And I also like, the one rule that I try to, any new league, I throw this out there. I say, hey, let's do some points for fourth down stops for defenses, just because it's a fun moment. Just because it's a fun moment, and we need reasons to root for defenses a little bit more. And it's when you're just picture in your mind how fired up the defense is when they make that stop.
Yes.
Everyone's running around and going, we got him, and pointing, and you know what I mean? Like to have like a dog in that fight, either on the first down side for offense, but also on the stop side. I love having it because then you feel like you're part of it.
You're going to still play with defenses, which I don't, but if you are going to play with defenses, there needs to be a reckoning with how we score defenses for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's nice. It is. I've found that, because it's really hard to root for your defense in fantasy. Like I don't really do it much, but I found myself now. I'm like, when we do it, I'm like, those are my boys. I'm like, we got them. We stopped.
Maybe like a third and fourth down conversion percentage, almost like if you give up a third down conversion, it's a minus of some sort of point value, and if you stop a third down conversion, it's a positive of some type of point value. You look at whatever the league average is and all the rest of it, and you create that would be the way to go, because then every third down, you're like, dude, get off the field, because that's what you're trying to cheer for anyway, right? So
it could be an interesting way to measure it, man. Anyway, okay. So I was saying that so that we could frame it for this, for some debates, dude. And I know, we chat all the time, so I know the players you like. So what I'm doing is I'm putting them up against tough matchups. Yeah. So you kind of tell everybody who you like of these two players, and and any guidance you can give, right? And they're going to be tough, because I went through and I looked at the Fantasy Pros. I looked at Keep Trade Cut. I looked at I love Alex Korf. Alex Korf peaked in high school.
You'll just send the link.
You got to check. He's got a trade chart where he takes all the industry sentiments and puts it together, and then has numeric value next to all the players, right? So that you can go and say, okay, this player plus this player equals this player. It's a great tool. Yeah.
Cool,
peaked in high school. He's a Reddit guy, and he's with Draft Sharks. So yeah, shout out peaked in high school, cool. Alex Korf. That's my guy. So I went through and I kind of pulled them all, and I was like, okay, I said, these two players similarly ranked and similar age. So let's do QB first. I know you're a Brock Purdy guy. You're not been shy about that, right?
Well, you go ahead and keep going, because I've also been. So here's the thing: you sent me this, and you asked me if I would want to change anybody, and the guy that you put Brock Purdy against has been my guy.
I know, so that's why I did that.
I love it.
So that's why I did that.
Like, no, don't change it. Put me on the spot, damn it.
Great debate. The format is super flex, half PPR. And we'll do 4-point passing, right? 4-point passing or 6? Sure. No, you're saying okay. 6. Okay, 6-point passes. No, this is your format. We're going to your world. 6-point passing. Brock Purdy versus Trevor Lawrence. Both, honestly, because Purdy was a little older for prospects. So both 24-year-old guys right now. Oh man, who do you got?
I've been steaming up. It's so unfair for you to pick Trevor Lawrence, and I love that you did. That's why when you said, should I change it? I'm like, don't change it. Put me on the spot. That's the way this is supposed to work, damn it. I think in a lot of ways with Brock Purdy, it's like, Chuck said it the other day. He's like, what's going to change? What is going to change for Brock Purdy? The offense? No. The coaching? No. The scheme? No. Nothing's changing. He's going to be there again next year. He's going to have all these great weapons. He's going to be in this great system. He's proven he can run it. I think he's really proven. Look, he proved it with his legs a little bit, obviously, in this past game. Right. Totally. He's just I think he's just good enough to be a great quarterback going forward. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't know that he's going to be as prolific for his entire career. I would certainly bet against that for sure. Right. But I think, when you talk about guys like Kirk Cousins and guys that have just been found money because they've been such a pro every single year, I think he's on that track at the very least. And it's really hard to bet against him. You put him against someone that I just feel like is super talented and has really gotten the raw end of it for 2 out of the 3 years so far, in terms of, there were some underlying stats that showed that Trevor was really dealing with, bad defense and lots of drops, lots of just a tough go
mess. Yeah.
You cannot devoid him of blame. He has not been as good as he needs to be either. But I do still believe in Trevor. If I were on the clock, I would tank and just absolutely throw up in my lap before probably pressing the button on Trevor Lawrence, but it is super close. But I do have, I think I have Brock Purdy at like quarterback 9 or something in my rankings. So to me, he's definitely in that quarterback 1 conversation. And yeah, he's there, man. I think he's a great value because a lot of times still, I think he's falling. Certainly the whoever you get at quarterback 12 in a dynasty startup right now, I think is a really good pick, whoever that might be. Because literally, I think there's about 12 really solid, dynasty startup quarterbacks right now. So yeah.
Exactly. And my only concern with Purdy is something we talked about earlier with the 3-headed monster. You got the 3-headed dragon, and if things go south, you need to cut off one of the heads. I just feel like they would never, like Lynch and Shanahan are locked, right? Yeah. So like if push comes to shove, but that would be down the road because they're going to the Super Bowl. So I mean, those concerns are, and the obviously he's the guy next year and probably the year after that until the rookie deal. So like those concerns, like I said,
I think he's going to be good.
I don't rear their heads. He could just be flat out
somewhere else. I think he's going to be good. I think he's a good quarterback. That's that. Yeah, right. And to the Debbie virgins out there, they're nodding their heads because Brock Purdy was a really elite prospect coming out of high school. He was one of those guys. It was like the Brock Purdy draft in a few years, and then he kind of just lost a little bit of steam. He's not as gifted, like he's not Josh Allen. You know what I mean? He doesn't have. He kind of looks like Hunter Renfrow. He's got all these sort of negatives in that way, but Tom Brady had some of that too. And I'm not trying to compare them, but they ought to be compared a bit. They're
to some degree.
To some degree, you got to go.
I have to jump in. Did you see the comparison that came out on Twitter of who Brock Purdy looks like?
Oh no, tell me.
Oh my god, it's so funny. They look so incredibly similar. Somebody pulled up a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh shit,
it looks just like Brock. I swear to God, check it out on Twitter. It looks just like Brock Purdy, bro. It is so funny, dude.
That's great.
Yeah. But here's my take on it. You guys are ready for this? If you want to do a startup, if you like Brock Purdy, do a startup draft and draft Brock Purdy because you'll get a good discount on him. If you want to jump in and get an orphan team, or if you like Trevor Lawrence, go pick up an orphan team because there are probably people out there that invested a lot in Trevor Lawrence and they're giving up, and you could probably pick up a team with Trevor, and then sell the rest of the assets. I'll tell you right now,
Trevor for sure.
Bingo. And if you want to do that now, the place to do it, FFPC. That's where I go to do these things. You can use promo code Coop right now. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. And you can either do a startup or you can pick up an orphan team. According to Eric Bachman over there, great guy, he says they've never had a league fold because they just have too many people come in. Yeah. So go over there. And again, you can play from $77 up to $2,500. I'm not doing it. Do you have any really, really high stakes Dino leagues?
Not really, really high stakes. I view those as like, there's like, I know people who are in like 10,000.
10, yeah. But so, you're in a couple hundred for sure. A couple $100.
Sure. Yeah. $500.
But you can do it. That's the place to do it. I mean, we did the
they've got some good high stakes leagues for sure. Yeah.
Oh, we cover a lot of those. We covered a $10,000 one where a guy, it was redraft. His first 2 running backs he took were Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery both. Put 10 grand on that, brother. Yeah, it's crazy. So go over to my FFPC, use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. Anyway, back to the great debates. Let's see how many of these we can get through. We're going to do one at each position, but let's rapid fire a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Let's not cut the information. Say what you got to say.
Yeah.
Here, running back 1. 2 interesting names because they're different spots, right?
Yeah.
We've got one guy, Zach Charbonnet, who was pretty highly touted, but landed with Kenneth Walker, right? And then you got another guy, Tyjae Spears. A lot of questions about him. There were questions about the knee, but he still got drafted okay, but, behind Derrick Henry. But now Derrick Henry is expected to be gone. So one guy kind of the better opportunity. The other guy had the better profile among many. Where are you at with these guys? Very similar aged. Tyjae Spears versus Zach Charbonnet, and I'll throw one extra curveball in there. If you want, you can also pick Kenneth Walker, who's also very similar age of this group. So who do you think? If you're going to take one on the clock.
I take Kenneth Walker over Tyjae still.
Okay.
Just because Tyjae's got that knee issue over the long term. I think maybe they're very close. Maybe Tyjae. Tyjae at his price, I think. Look, Tyjae Spears is an absolute buy. He still is. I view him as a running back 1-2 with potential upside well above that for 2024. And I don't see Zach Charbonnet anywhere close to that value. So for me, it's an absolute smash on Tyjae. I probably have Tyjae quite a bit higher than consensus. That's actually how I did this. I looked at, my rankings and I put it versus experts, in Fantasy Pros, and I was so much higher on Tyjae Spears. And I think I can get even higher on Tyjae. When you look at players like James Cook, DeAndre Swift, even Javonte Williams, like Tyjae could definitely be higher than those guys. I mean, Kenneth Walker, you mentioned, I do have Kenneth Walker ahead of him, but he's right there. Like, Tyjae once the season starts, Tyjae is going to gain all the steam from everybody else. So he's still kind of a buy for me. I don't recommend sort of buying running backs at all, but I do recommend selling some running backs for other running backs, So, if you
have to have them. You have to have them.
You do.
At the end of the day.
So yeah, I mean, I would not trade a wide receiver for a running back almost ever because I think I just always rather go the other way in general. But yeah, Tyjae is just screaming by until he isn't.
Dude, I gotta send you the link after this to Peaked in High School, man, because you're gonna love it because what you just described. Like, because he'll post these on Reddit and people will be like, oh, this is stupid. Like these numbers, I don't like them. Well, he'll say good. That's a good thing because this is not my rankings. This is the industry sentiment,
right? Exactly.
Right? And his formula puts that all together. So when you look at this chart and you say this is wrong, good. That's a good thing because it means that you can take advantage. Guys too high, sell them. Guys too low, go get them. The problem is it's so difficult for us as fantasy gamers to look at this list and see one of our own players and say, I drafted this guy. I like this guy. He's too high on this list. Mm-hmm. That if you can look at a chart or look at rankings and say that to yourself, you just became the king. You just got the best gift you could possibly get, which is that you realize that you have permission to trade one of your players for a player that you like better. That's my favorite thing. It's so hard to find it, right?
Yep. No, you have to.
I love that. People get so mad. They're like, why is my guy ranked so low? Why is this other guy ranked so high? It's like, don't get mad. Like, real recognize.
Take advantage.
Take advantage. You should be happy. Like, if your day, like when I tell people go trade this player, when I say sell high on this guy, you shouldn't be upset that your player's on the list. You should be pumped that your player's on the list because you won. You know what I mean? You already won. So good. I'm with you on Tyjae Spears. I'm just hoping they don't bring in somebody annoying like an AJ Dillon or a plotter. It's, you know what I mean? Like, but he'll still have the better rule. So
I'm not worried about AJ Dillon.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to two more exciting ones. Matt Deutsch, the producer behind the glass, shout out Matt, just in my ear said, hey, you know what? No hard out today, actually. We don't have a show after this. Usually we do, but no hard out. So we could go a couple minutes after. I know you got to get set up. You have a great guest today.
I do.
Coming. He was at the Senior Bowl. Is he at the Super Bowl? But you have a great guest coming on.
I don't know. I have Thor Nystrom today. The show will drop tomorrow. But yeah, Thor every year, it's awesome. I reached out to Thor this year. I said, hey, what week do you want to come on? He goes, Senior Bowl week, man. And he goes, I'm your Senior Bowl guy. I love that. So, every single year I get Thor for the Senior Bowl. He's such a great orator and so great at breaking down college prospects and their utilization. He's just a real fun guy to talk to, and fucking love that guy. So
he's awesome,
can't wait. I'm recording with him after we're done here. No rush too much. So he's ready for us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can go a couple minutes over, but I want to make sure you're ready to rock for that. Yeah, thanks, great guy. I always check out that show, man. That's good. That's because again, I'm doing free agent stuff right now, and I'm setting that whole plate for everybody. So I do like to check in and be like, okay, Thor was at the Senior Bowl. He's got boots on the ground. What are him and Jax looking at this?
Gotta know. I'm actually excited because I didn't do as much work on the Senior Bowl this year as I did last year. Last year I was like all into Tank Dell. I wanted to see what was going on, so I was like I watched every bit of it. Right. This year, not as much. So I'm just like I'm going to be learning with the guests this week exactly what went on down on the ground there.
Okay. Well, perfect. Well, here we go then. Wide receiver question. We're going to do, let's use Tank Dell because I know you love Tank Dell.
There we go.
And pretty much the industry and virtually everybody had Jaxon Smith-Njigba as a top guy. JSN was number one. Obviously, he landed in a spot where, he's got to kind of go the Chris Godwin path, play a little slot. CeeDee Lamb as well. People forget rookie year played almost exclusively slot. right? Finishes wide receiver 24. And then once he became a full-time guy, it was boom, wheels up. Smell you later. So right now, I know you're a long-term approach guy, right? So from that standpoint, maybe you don't ditch JSN, but do you rank Tank Dell at this stage ahead of JSN?
I wonder what the chat thinks. Let's go, boys.
Chat.
What do you got? Tank Dell or JSN?
That's a spicy meatball.
That's a spicy meatball. I think a lot of people are like, nervous about Tank Dell because of how good Nico Collins was. I'm not. I think Tank Dell is the legit alpha predator. I think he is. I would definitely take him ahead of JSN. JSN is going to be great. I think he's also a slot guy. We learned that last year, a full year ago before JSN was drafted. Felix Sharp came on my pod and said that he kind of liked Josh Downs ahead of JSN as a straight up prospect. And I was like, wow, that's a spicy meatball, as you would say on this show. Yeah. And I was like, man, is that real? Can he really think that? And he said that he felt like Downs had more utility as a downfield threat. Turns out that's actually true. Whether or not, JSN can morph into a Amon-Ra St. Brown or not, that remains to be seen. Is he closer to Tyler Boyd or is he closer to Amon-Ra? Right. JSN. I'm not sure. I think he's definitely in between those two players. But then when we look at Tank Dell, we know what he is. He is the ultimate I get open at will in the middle of the field for a quarterback paired with CJ Stroud for a long period of time. They're both on their rookie deals. They're not going anywhere. And if they actually do fall in love, then they're going to extend both of them together, and they might have a 6, 7, 8-year run together. Give me all the Tank Dell, and especially when you losers play PPR. Joking. Yeah.
Well, Z, a lot of Tank in the chat. Z trying to cheat, saying if JSN, if Lockett was let go. Well, yeah, okay.
No, I'm still fine. Ooh, you can ship Lockett to the moon, and it's Tank Dell over JSN.
I like both players. I think JSN. I think the trajectory for JSN is going to be similar to Godwin. Not that he's going to be the wide receiver 2 in year 3, but Godwin needed. It was Mike Evans on one side, which of course is DK Metcalf, and then he was behind Deshaun Jackson. And then once Deshaun Jackson was gone, he got the playing time. So, but I'm with you on Tank Dell, and I will tell you this: we had Brandon Huffman on, who I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he's like a kind of a legendary high school to college scout, right? Yeah. And he does a lot of work.
Virgin.
Yeah. No, this guy's definitely not. Yeah, this guy's definitely not a virgin. He's a beast, dude.
I'm joking.
I know. We're doing the Debbie joke. For people joining us late, that's a Debbie joke. It's not. Brandon Huffman played tight end.
I love him.
I wouldn't fight him.
That's why it was funny. Come on.
That is funny. But Brandon Huffman basically said, I was like, where's the process start for you? Right? I was like, where's the process start? And he goes, I got to find out whether these guys have it. Like, as the kids would say, whether they have that dog in them.
Yes.
And he's like, first and foremost, he's like, I don't care about size and speed and metrics and any of that until I find that out. And he actually specifically, we were talking tight ends that day. Yeah. He specifically mentioned Josh Downs.
Yeah.
And said Josh Downs is a killer. And his brother, his younger brother, Caleb Downs, is a killer. He was at Alabama, just entered the transfer portal. I think he might have landed in Ohio State, but he plays defensive back. He's like, these guys are killers. It doesn't matter how big they are. And that's kind of like Tank Dell and some of these guys, where other guys we've seen, like N'Keal Harry, turns out they don't have it. So they can be the perfect size and the perfect speed and all the things you want to see, and they just don't have it, dude. So, yeah, chat's got it right. Huffman smashes for sure. But,
for sure. Yeah, no, that's
funny. But, yeah, to your point, like that, honestly, since he said that, because I was for a very long time a guy that would just take all those players and put them in a box and put the box into the bed and never look in there. And every once in a while you poke in and say, Rondell Moore, how you doing? Not that good. Okay, well, you're an outlier, so that's why you're in the box. But now I've gotten more nuanced where, again, just like the day 3 guys, you have to look into the smaller subset of outliers and say, okay, which one of these outliers has the best chance to do it?
Yeah.
If one of these guys is going to be the guy, which one's going to be the guy? Right.
Yeah.
And Tank Dell was obvious in that.
I would argue that they're not outliers anymore, because the anatomy series that I do has shown that these wide receivers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And the game is changing. This is definitely a take for you, Andrew, because you follow the game very, very closely, and there's more 3 wide receiver, 4 wide receiver, 5 wide receiver sets. There's more wide receivers on the field. The slot is being targeted at a much higher rate year over year. The ADOT is coming down. Like
defenses
completion
are
percentage
changing.
is going up. They can't hit guys, right? So there's so many things that are like actual football takes that actually lend to these smaller receivers actually having utilization. I'll ask you one other thing. You probably could have said Tank Dell or Jordan Addison, and you'd have had me a little bit closer. I actually have all three of those guys back to back to back.
Yeah,
and I've got it Dell, Addison, JSN. So I think Addison is even a tougher question when you go to Dell, but I think still Tank Dell.
Right. To your point on the the different formations and stuff, I moved Tank Dell. There was one day where I moved Tank Dell up 30 spots in my rankings.
Yeah, right.
That was the day where I logged in to do my snap count article and went to look at slot guy Tank Dell and realized that he just played 50 snaps out wide.
Outside.
At flanker. He is already a full-time guy opposite Nico Collins.
Correct.
And Noah Brown, people think Tank Dell's just a slot guy. They don't know. Because they don't. If you don't watch the Texans, you don't watch the games, you don't at least go and look at the stats after. You think he's in the slot, but no. Robert Woods and Noah Brown were. He's a full-time player. Yes, you move those guys right up. And the day Josh Downs takes Alec Pierce led the league in routes run and was wide receiver 71. So the day that the Colts realized that and have Josh Downs as the full-time guy and have Alec Pierce is the guy that comes in for 3 wide receiver sets and comes out for 2 wide receiver sets is the day that Josh Downs blows up and crushes. And the same for Jaden Reed and the same for a lot of these guys that are currently part-time players. They need to they need to break that mold, and you see it and become Keenan Allen and become Cooper Kupp that are out there for 2 wide receiver sets and play slot in 3 wide receiver sets. So boom shakalaka. Get those guys before it happens, because now you can't get tanked out, but you can make those bets still.
You can still get Josh Downs.
You can still get Josh Downs, and I think he's the next one to do that. Alec Pierce, I mean, my goodness, all exercise team. On paper, he's the perfect paper tiger, man. 6'3", fast as heck, right? Handsome kid. Like you want, right? You want him to. He's the guy you want to win. But
not a virgin. No,
no
he's
way.
Getting it.
Yeah. So okay, let's get you out with one last one. The position I love. And again, this goes to what we talked about. The times are changing. A lot more guys playing slot. Tight ends playing slot, a little cheat code action. But 2 guys I know I like, and I know that you like as well. It's a tough one. I'm going to leave Sam Laporta out of this one, but I believe there could be arguments to be made for either of these guys to some degree. We're going to leave Sam Laporta out. Trey McBride against Dalton Kincaid. Trey McBride versus Dalton Kincaid. So Kincaid was the chosen one coming out. He did earn the slot role. Laporta kind of overtook him in that regard, but I still like him. And then there's Trey McBride, who, with this ghost ship that the Cardinals have built where they're trying to move to the future, he emerged as an absolute target hog to the point where Zach Ertz said, "This isn't fun for me anymore. I want out." So Trey McBride or Dalton Kincaid and Dino, if you were drafting today.
Let's go chat. I want to hear who you guys got. And Ryan Loesch, Rhino is riding with me. It is Trey McBride. I have Trey McBride as my tight end 2 in Dynasty. Absolutely. Look, I liked Dalton Kincaid. I thought he was, certainly a worthy tight end 1 in that class. I kind of had him as my tight end 1. Then he got drafted as the tight end 1. So I'm a big fan of Dalton Kincaid. But I was actually trading off of Dalton Kincaid late in the first round of rookie drafts last year to move back and sometimes draft Laporta plus. So I really like that move. I'm not a huge Dalton Kincaid fan. I do think he has some limitations. As you point out, he plays a little bit more slot than anything. So he could sort of be schemed out of opportunity if he were playing in a different system. Trey McBride is a beast. He's an all-purpose tight end. Land, sea, and air. He can play no matter what, right? So he is there. I don't care what wide receivers. They can get all the wide receivers in the world. He is still going to get those tight end targets, goal line targets, play action targets, seam targets, slot targets. He was heavily targeted. He was heavily efficient. It is absolutely 100% Trey McBride, who might even be the tight end 1 in Dynasty if we're not being so short-sighted. I mean, this guy is the legit player, can play on all facets. I absolutely love Trey McBride. So Trey McBride, easy answer. Book it.
Honestly, and this might be blasphemous because people know how big I'm on Dalton. Yeah, Trey Landon C. Yeah, they might be blasphemous to people that have followed me for a long time, but you know, I have to rank Trey McBride ahead just because if you also think about what it would take to dislodge these guys from being a top 2 target on the team, it just takes a lot more from McBride at this stage, right? Mm-hmm. So like with the Bills, they go out and get one wide receiver to line up opposite of Stephon Diggs, and now Dalton Kincaid is not a top 2 target on the team anymore. Whereas Marquise Brown's probably out. I know he had some very strange things going on towards the end there. And like, what exactly would need to happen? Like, are they going to go out and get Michael Pittman and Calvin Ridley? I mean, are they going to get Michael Pittman and draft, you know, like they're going to get, are the Cardinals going to get T Higgins and then draft a guy who's better than Trey McBride and deserves more targets than Trey McBride? It's not, I just feel like it's not going to happen.
But even if they do, he can line up as an inline tight end, right? Whereas Dalton Kincaid sort of proved that he has to man somewhat of a slot role. So you're right. If they kind of bring in some sort of slot savant, you know, then he's squeezed. He may not be eliminated, I don't think, but he's squeezed. It's harder to squeeze McBride.
Right. Bingo. Yeah. So I'm with you, man. I have to rank it that way, though. I still love Dalton Kincaid.
Me too. Absolutely. Especially in this situation, because I don't think he is going anywhere. And I do think that they see him and value him with first-round capital as a slot weapon for Josh Allen. So I do disagree. I'm not like, afraid of Dalton Kincaid getting too squeezed out. But we saw it even with Dawson Knox. You know, Dawson Knox played when he was healthy, and they played together. It wasn't like, you know, so
they told us they were going to do it. They told us they were going to do it. And Dawson Knox played way more wide receiver than I thought. Like it wasn't just, I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. So yeah, enough Dawson Knox. But yeah, people forget Trey McBride was the first tight end drafted in the year he was drafted. He was drafted in the second round, literally exactly where the best tight end of the class should be drafted in most years, right? It's just not that often you're going to have
a college stats were bonkers.
Good. He's a good player, dude. So there you go. All right. I've kept you long enough. We kept you over time. Appreciate you guys hanging in the chat and staying with us, dude. Matt Deutsch, appreciate you hanging with us, man. Tell me, man, what you got going on. Tell everybody where they can find you, and let me know when you want me to come back on and chat on yours. We'll do a home and home. Yeah. Shut me up.
Soon. We got to have you on. I love having Andrew on. I love talking with Andrew Cooper. He can just, you know, the words flow out of him. It's amazing. I love you. Thank you for having me on this show. We are doing a ton of stuff at the Undroppables. We've brought on a lot of different partners and contributors, and there's so much going on. So go check us out at theundroppables.com. Check us out on the Undroppables feed on Twitter, as well as our YouTube page. We kind of ignored YouTube for a while, and now we're making a concerted effort to have a great YouTube presence. A lot of cool shows on there. It's a lot of fun. So we're doing a lot of great stuff. And of course, my show, The Undrafted, where podcasts are found.
Killing it, man. Definitely. I'm looking at the schedule. Get me on right around March 11th or so. So the combine's the end of February, right? And then you'll be going crazy with the combine stuff. And then March 11th is the legal tampering period. So get me on either right before it so we can speculate crazy. Or right after so we can analyze. Let's do right before. We'll do some crazy speculation
stuff. I'll get you free agent.
Let's do it. Because I'll be finishing my series on the March 9th. So anytime around there, check your schedule. All right, gang. Thank you, Jax. You're the man. Thank you in the chat. Make sure go over to Better Edge and get set up there. Better Edge. Use promo code ALARM and get in the contest there. We're giving away a free Jordan Addison autograph picture. It's free. So go get set up with that. QR code on the screen right now for that. And also, if you want to play Dino, go get set up at my FFPC. Use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more first-time depositor. That's it for us. We're out of here, baby. Let's go.